The accused commander, crystalline dome of the Galactic Council chamber, glittered like a massive diamond under the triple suns of Asteria Prime. Commander Elias Vega stepped through the imposing obsidian doors, his midnight blue Earth Federation uniform standing out starkly among the assembled alien dignitaries. His strong jaw was set with determination despite the hostile stares following his every move. Commander Elias Vega of Earth, announced the monotone voice of the automated system, humanity's representative to the Zerelian-Tauran peace negotiations. High Arbiter Korzak, the massive six-limbed draconid who presided over the council, peered down at Elias with glowing amber eyes. The scaled ridges above his eyes furrowed in what passed for a frown among his species. Commander Vega Korzak's voice rumbled like distant thunder. You stand accused of attempting to sabotage the peace negotiations between the Zerelian Empire and the Tauran Collective. How do you respond to these charges? Elias lifted his chin. The accusations are false. High Arbiter. I've dedicated my career to fostering peace between species. Ambassador Solaris of the Zerelian Empire rose from her seat, her silver skin shimmering with indignation. We have evidence that Commander Vega planted explosive devices in the negotiation chambers. Devices that would have killed our Empress had they not been discovered. Convenient timing, Elias replied calmly. These accusations emerge just as Earth has proposed terms that would limit Zerelian mineral extraction in the neutral zones. Murmurs rippled through the assembly. Elias noticed a slender figure watching from a private viewing gallery. Even at this distance, her vibrant purple skin and flowing silver hair marked her as Lumari, one of the oldest species in the galaxy. Their eyes met briefly, and she tilted her head with unmistakable curiosity. The evidence speaks for itself, Sellers continued, activating a holographic display that showed security footage of someone resembling Elias placing devices in the chamber. That's not me, Elias stated firmly. The footage has been altered. Your denial is noted, Korzak responded. You will be detained while the council examines the evidence. If found guilty, the penalty is death. Guards approached Elias, energy restraints at the ready. As they escorted him from the chamber, he caught another glimpse of the Lumari woman. She was no longer watching passively, but typing furiously on a datapad, her brow furrowed in concentration. Later, in his detention cell, a sterile cube of white energy fields, Elias paced restlessly. Earth Command wouldn't receive his distress signal for days due to the communication restrictions. By then, it could be too late. The energy field at the entrance rippled, and a guard appeared. You have a visitor. Scientific consultation. Now. The field parted to admit the Lumari woman he'd noticed earlier. Up close, her purple skin had subtle patterns that seemed to shift like constellations. Her silver eyes studied him with intelligent intensity. Commander Vega, her voice was melodic, with an accent that made his name sound like music. I am Niera, chief xenobiologist of the Lumari Science Academy. Why would a xenobiologist visit an accused saboteur? Elias asked, immediately wary. Niera glanced at the surveillance devices, then leaned closer. Because the evidence against you is fabricated, and I believe I know who's responsible. She pressed a small device into his palm. When the lights dim for the sleep cycle, activate this. It will disable surveillance for exactly 3 minutes. Before he could respond, she straightened and spoke louder. Your biological responses will be monitored as part of the investigation. Standard procedure. With that, she turned and left, the energy field sealing behind her. Elias closed his fist around the device. For the first time since his arrest, he felt something unexpected. Hope. Unexpected alliance when the artificial lighting dimmed to simulate night? Elias waited until the guard passed his cell before activating Niara's device. A soft pulse of blue light spread through the room, and the surveillance indicators blinked out. 3 minutes, he reminded himself. Counting silently, the energy field at the entrance rippled again, and Niara slipped inside. Moving with silent grace, "We don't have much time," she whispered, her silver eyes gleaming in the dim light. The security footage showing you planting explosives was created using advanced holographic technology. The Zerelians are experts in this field. Why would they frame me? Elias asked, keeping his voice low. Neera's expression darkened. The Zarelian Empire doesn't want peace with the Taurans. They want control of the Vega, sector ironically named after your Earth constellation, not you. She produced a small data crystal. This contains proof that Ambassador Celeris has been secretly meeting with General Dracos of the military faction. The same faction that opposes Empress Zara's peace initiative, Elias murmured. The pieces clicking into place. Exactly. They plan to assassinate the Empress and blame it on Earth, triggering an interspecies war that would devastate half the galaxy. Elias took the crystal, his fingers brushing against Niara's. Her skin was warm, contrary to the cool appearance of her purple complexion. Why help me? He asked. The Lumari have maintained neutrality for centuries. A sad smile crossed Niara's face. My people's neutrality has become apathy. We watch, we study, but we no longer act. I can't stand by while billions die. She paused, her silver eyes studying his face. Besides, I've studied humans extensively. Your species' resilience is... fascinating. The surveillance indicators began to flicker, signaling the device's effect was waning. Tomorrow, Niara said quickly, they'll transfer you to the central detention facility. The transport will be vulnerable at the Starbridge Junction. Be ready. For what? A chance, she replied cryptically, and pressed something else into his hand. A small pendant with swirling patterns that matched those on her skin. We're separated. This will help you find me. It's attuned to my biological signature. Surveillance systems reactivated with a soft hum. Niara stepped back, resuming her formal demeanor. The biological examination is complete, she announced for the benefit of the listening devices. The subject shows normal stress responses consistent with his claims of innocence. With a last meaningful glance, she departed the next day, as Niara had predicted. 2 Draconid guards arrived to transfer. Elias they fitted him with more substantial restraints. That limited his movement without completely immobilizing him. Protocol requires us to inform you that any escape attempt will be met with lethal force. One guard stated flatly. The transport vessel was small but heavily armored. As it navigated through Asteria Prime's crowded sky lanes, Elias watched the spectacular cityscape of crystalline towers and floating gardens. Potentially his last view of freedom. When they approached the Starbridge Junctiona, massive intersection of energy lanes connecting different sectors of the city, Elias tensed, ready for whatever Niara had planned. Suddenly, the transport lurched violently as something struck it from above. The guards reached for their weapons, but the vessel tilted sharply, throwing them off balance. A section of the ceiling peeled back, and a blinding light poured in. Jump, came Niara's voice from above. Without hesitation, Elias leaped upward, his restraints making the movement awkward. Strong hands gripped his arms, pulling him into a sleek silver craft. The hatch sealed behind him as plasma bolts from the guards. Weapons splashed harmlessly against the hull. Niara sat at the controls, her fingers dancing across the console as the ship accelerated away from the transport. That was your plan? Elias asked, catching his breath. A direct rescue? Sometimes the simplest approach works best, she replied with a small smile. Now we need to find somewhere to analyze this evidence before the Council condemns you in absentia. As they sped away from Asteria Prime, weaving through the defensive grid, Elias felt something unexpected, growing admiration for this purple-skinned scientist who had risked everything to save a stranger. And perhaps, he admitted to himself as he watched her confidently pilot the craft into the safety of space, something more. The revelation, the abandoned research outpost on Meridian's moon, hung in space like a forgotten memory, its once gleaming surfaces now dulled by cosmic dust. Inside, Elias and Niara had transformed the central laboratory into their investigation hub, holographic displays surrounding them with fragments of evidence. Look at this, Niara said, highlighting a communication log. Her silver hair cascaded over her shoulders as she leaned forward. coded transmissions between Celeris and military bases in the Zarelian restricted sectors. All sent within hours of your arrest? Elias studied the pattern, acutely aware of Neora's proximity. 3 days of working side by side had created an unexpected intimacy between them. You're preparing for something big, he confirmed. These energy signatures suggest fleet movements, not defensive positions, tack formations. Their eyes met across the hologram, mutual understanding passing between them. They're going to strike as soon as the Empress is dead, Nyara whispered, using your alleged assassination attempt as justification. We need to get this evidence to High Arbiter Korzak, Elias said, running a hand through his dark hair. He's rigid but fair. He'll have to acknowledge this conspiracy. Niar's expression clouded. Getting to him won't be easy. The council chamber will be heavily guarded, especially with the peace ceremony tomorrow. Elias reached out, his fingers gently brushing against her arm. You've already risked everything for me, Nyara. I can't ask you to do more. She stepped closer, the patterns on her purple skin seeming to pulse with emotion. You didn't ask, Elias. I chose this path. Her silver eyes searched his. Do you know why I was watching you in the council chamber that first day? He shook his head. I've studied humans for years, but you were different. Your compassion, your determination, your willingness to stand alone against injustice. She placed her hand over his. My people have a saying. Stars recognize each other across the void. The air between them seemed charged with unspoken feelings. Elias felt drawn to her in a way that transcended physical attraction, a connection of minds, of spirits. Niara, he began, his voice soft with emotion. A proximity alarm shattered the moment. Elias rushed to the security console. Multiple ships approaching. Zarelian signatures. How did they find us? Niara's hands flew across the controls, activating the outpost's minimal defenses. It doesn't matter now, Elias replied grimly. We need to leave. As they prepared the ship for emergency departure, Niara suddenly stopped, her expression resolute. There's another way, she said. A way to ensure your evidence is heard even if we're captured. She took a deep breath. The Lumari stellar binding. The what? An ancient ceremony, she explained quickly. Once performed, it creates a bond recognized by all species in the Council. It would give you diplomatic protection under Lumari law and force the Council to hear our evidence. It sounds like... Elias hesitated. Marriage, Niara confirmed. In your terms, yes. A union of minds and spirits. The proximity alarm blared more urgently. Is that the only reason? Elias asked quietly, despite the chaos around them. Niara's eyes softened. No, she admitted. These days, together, I've felt something I never expected to feel for someone not of my kind. Elias took her hands in his. Then regardless of what happens next, my answer is yes. The ceremony was brief, but profound. Under the light of distant stars visible through the laboratory dome, they exchanged vows in Lumari tradition. Niara traced glowing patterns on Elias's palm with a ceremonial ink, then pressed her hand to his. With stars as witness, she whispered in her native tongue, then translated, 2 paths become one. 2 paths become one, Elias repeated. Feeling a strange warmth spread from their joined hands throughout his body as they completed the ritual. The first explosion rocked the outpost. Security barriers were failing. Whatever happens, Niara said. Pressing the data crystal containing their evidence into Ilias's hand, we're bound now. The Council must acknowledge this. Elias pulled her close, their foreheads touching in an intimate gesture. We'll face what comes together. The Zarelian forces breached the laboratory. They found Elias and Nyara standing side by side, unarmed but unafraid. Commander Vega, the Zarelian captain's voice was cold with triumph. Ambassador Solaris will be pleased. Your execution has merely been delayed, not prevented. As they were led away in restraints, Elias caught Nyara's eye. A silent promise passed between them. This wasn't over. The stars had witnessed their binding. And soon, the entire galaxy would know the truth. Truth and consequences. Private chamber assigned to Elias and Niara was a significant upgrade from the detention cells. Concession to Niara's status and their recognized binding. Large windows overlooked Asteria Prime's crystalline skyline, now glittering with the lights of evening. The Council investigators have been thorough, Niera said, studying a datapad. They've recovered our evidence crystal from the Zarelian security forces. Elias joined her by the window, their reflections overlapping on the transparent surface. In the analysis? Authentic, she confirmed, a small smile playing on her purple lips. Ambassador Solaris is being questioned even now. Relief washed over him. After days of investigation, the truth was finally emerging. Yet another matter weighed on his mind. Niera, he began carefully. Now that we're no longer in immediate danger, we should discuss our ... situation. Her silver eyes met his understanding in their depths. Our binding, yes? He took her hands in his. It was necessary for survival, but I don't want you bound to an obligation you never sought. Niara's expression softened. Elias, the stellar binding cannot be forced or falsified. It requires genuine connection. Her fingers tightened around his. What began as strategic necessity revealed something that was already there. I've never felt anything like this, he admitted. Crossing stars and species to find someone who understands me so completely. The old Lumori texts speak of souls who recognize each other despite being born under different suns. She stepped closer, the patterns on her skin pulsing gently. Perhaps the universe has a greater design than we realize. A chime at the door interrupted their moment. A council page entered, bowing formally. High Arbiter Korzak requests your immediate presence in the council chamber. The emergency session is beginning. The chamber was subdued compared to the chaos of the previous day. Many delegations appeared shocked as evidence of the conspiracy played on the main display screens. Ambassador Solaris was notably absent. High Arbiter Korzak acknowledged their arrival with a solemn nod. Commander Vega, the Council Niera. The Council has verified your evidence. Ambassador Solaris has confessed to conspiracy against Empress Zara and fabricating the charges against you. Murmurs rippled through the assembly. More disturbing, Korzak continued. We have uncovered evidence of a wider plot. General Dracos has mobilized his fleet against the Empress's orders. They are currently approaching Tauran space. They're still proceeding with their war plan, Elias realized aloud. Precisely, Korzak confirmed. Which brings me to why you've been summoned. He straightened to his full impressive height. Commander Vega, in light of these revelations, all charges against you are dropped. Moreover, Empress Zara has requested your assistance in resolving this crisis. The Empress herself appeared on the communication screen. Her crystalline features regal and composed, despite the situation. Commander Vega, her melodic voice filled the chamber. Your integrity has been proven beyond doubt. I request your help in preventing General Dracos from starting a war that will destroy everything we've worked for. Elias stepped forward. I'm at your service, Your Majesty. But what can one human do against a Zarelian fleet? Sometimes an outsider sees solutions others cannot, the Empress replied. And you will not be alone. A joint Zarelian Tauran task force is assembling under my direct command. We need your strategic insights and diplomatic skills. Elias glanced at Niera, who nodded encouragingly. I accept, Your Majesty. The next 12 hours passed in a blur of strategic planning and diplomatic maneuvering. Elias worked alongside Zarelian commanders, applying his unique human perspective to their tactical challenges. Niara provided crucial insights into psychological approaches that might sway Dracos' supporters. Their combined efforts culminated in a daring plan. While the Empress's loyal forces engaged Dracos' fleet at the edge of Tauran space, Elias and Niera would lead a small team to infiltrate the general's flagship and expose the truth to his officers as they prepared for the mission. Elias found a moment alone with Niera in the shuttle bay. This is far beyond what you signed up for, he said, helping her adjust her tactical gear. You're a scientist, not a soldier. Niara's silver eyes gleamed with determination. I'm also your wife, by the star's witness. She touched the ceremonial mark on her palm, now a permanent part of her. Our paths are one now, remember? The mission succeeded against steep odds. When confronted with evidence of Dracos' treachery, BROADCAST, directly to every ship in his fleet, most of his officers stood down. The general himself was apprehended, attempting to flee in an escape pod. 3 days later, Elias and Nyera stood before the council once more, this time as honored guests. Empress Zara herself presented them with the Crystal Star, the highest honor of the Zarelian Empire. Through your courage, truth prevailed over deception and peace over war, she declared. The galaxy owes you a debt that cannot be measured. High Arbiter Korzak then rose to address them. The Council recognizes your service to galactic peace. Commander Vega, Earth's standing among the galactic community has been elevated. And as for your binding with scientist Nyera... He paused, his amber eyes softening slightly. It will be recorded in the archives as the first recognized human-Lumari union in our history. As they watched the triple sunset from a private balcony in the diplomatic quarter, Elias wrapped an arm around Nyera's shoulders. What happens now? He asked. You have your research on Lumari Prime, and I have my duties to Earth. Nyera turned to face him, her purple skin aglow in the fading light. The universe brought us together across impossible odds. I believe it will show us the way forward. Perhaps Elias suggested we could serve as joint ambassadors, building bridges between species who think they have nothing in common. Finding connection across the stars, Nyera agreed, her fingers intertwining with his, teaching others what we've learned. As the first stars appeared in the darkening sky, they sealed their future with a kiss that transcended the boundaries of worlds and species of promise that what began in crisis had transformed into something profound and enduring in the vastness of the galaxy. Two souls from different worlds had found each other, and in their union, a new hope for understanding between all species was born. The trial, the Galactic Council chamber, was packed to capacity, the atmosphere charged with tension. Representatives from 37 species filled the tiered seating, their murmurs creating a symphony of alien languages. News of the escaped human prisoner and his subsequent recapture had spread throughout the galaxy. Elias stood on the central platform, energy restraints binding his wrists. His Earth Federation uniform was torn and stained, but his posture remained proud, unbowed. Commander Elias Vega, High Arbiter Korzak's voice boomed through the chamber. You stand accused of attempting to assassinate Empress Zara of the Zarelian Empire, sabotaging peace negotiations, and now escaping lawful custody. Ambassador Celerus moved to the prosecution platform, her silver skin gleaming under the chamber lights. High Arbiter, the evidence is overwhelming. The human's guilt is beyond question. We demand immediate execution. Elias scanned the crowded chamber, searching for Nyera. They'd been separated upon capture, and he'd heard nothing of her fate. The pendant she had given him had been confiscated, leaving him feeling strangely bereft. Commander Vega, Korzak addressed him directly, amber eyes narrowing. Before this council passes judgment, you may speak in your defense. Elias straightened, addressing the assembled dignitaries with clear conviction. Members of the Galactic Council, I stand before you falsely accused. The evidence against me was fabricated by elements within the Zarelian Empire who seek war, not peace. Outraged hisses came from the Zarelian delegation. Celerus's face contorted with fury. These are desperate lies. She shouted. The human offers no proof of these slanderous claims. The proof exists, Elias continued steadily. Ambassador Celerus has conspired with General Dracos to assassinate Empress Zara and blame Earth, triggering a war that would devastate this galaxy. The chamber erupted in chaos. Korzak slammed his ceremonial staff against the floor, the sound reverberating like thunder. He commanded, These are serious accusations, Commander Vega. Without evidence, they're merely the desperate words of a condemned man. The evidence was in a data crystal, Elias replied. Confiscated when we were captured. Convenient. Celerus sneered. This imaginary evidence that conveniently disappeared. Korzak studied Elias for a long moment, then raised his massive hand. The council has heard enough. We will proceed to judgment. The voting lights on each delegation's console began to activate, predominantly showing red guilty. Elias watched with a sinking heart as his fate was decided before his eyes. Based on the overwhelming consensus, Korzak announced solemnly, Commander Elias Vega is found guilty of all charges. The sentence is immediate execution. Guards moved forward, preparing to escort Elias to the execution chamber. He stood tall, determined to face death with dignity. Wait. A voice rang out from the entrance of the chamber. The massive doors had been thrust open, and a figure stood silhouetted against the light. Niera strode into the chamber, her purple skin luminous, silver hair flowing behind her like a comet's tail. Her customary scientific attire had been replaced by the formal robes of Lumari nobility. "You cannot execute this man," she declared, her voice carrying to every corner of the silent chamber. Korzak rose to his full imposing height. "Scientist Niera of the Lumori, you overreach your authority by interrupting these proceedings." "I claim the right of intervention," Niera replied formally, approaching the central platform. "Under Article 7 of the Galactic Charter, concerning the protection of bonded pairs." Confused murmurs spread through the assembly. "Explain yourself," Korzak demanded. Niera reached Ilias's side, standing proudly beside him. "This man is my husband, bound to me through the Lumari stellar binding ritual. Under galactic law, he cannot be executed without a full investigation and the right to defense with the assistance of his bonded partner." The chamber exploded into astonished exclamations. Celerus's face contorted with rage. "Preposterous." She spat. "A human and a Lumari. Impossible." "It is not impossible," Niera replied calmly. "It is done. The stars have witnessed our binding." Korzak's amber eyes narrowed as he studied them both. "Is this true, Commander Vega?" "It is," Elias confirmed, his eyes meeting Niera's with undisguised affection. "We performed the ritual before our capture." "This is a desperate ploy," Celerus shouted. "They conspire together." Niera turned to face the council. "The Lumari stellar binding cannot be falsified. Any attempt results in biological rejection." She extended her palm where the ceremonial markings now glowed with a soft blue light. "Examine us. Verify the binding." Korzak signaled to the council's medical officer, who approached with scanning equipment. After a thorough examination of both Elias and Niera, the officer turned to address the council. "The binding is authentic. High Arbiter. Their biological signatures have harmonized according to all known parameters of the Lumari ritual." A hush fell over the assembly. Interspecies bindings were rare enough. One involving a humana, relative newcomer to galactic society, and a Lumari, was unprecedented. Korzak's expression remained unreadable as he considered this new development. Finally, he spoke. "The law is clear. Execution is stayed pending a full investigation. The bound pair will be detained together while the council examines all evidence." As the guards led them away, Elias felt Niera's hand slip into his. In the midst of danger, surrounded by hostile forces, he felt strangely at peace. The truth would come to light, and whatever happened next, they would face it together.